Welcome to We Are Old, Get Over It, the podcast where we celebrate the wisdom of age and maybe a little grumbling too. Our guests dive into topics that matter most to us, from navigating the digital world to embracing new adventures and the challenges that hold us back. Join me for about 30 minutes of insightful conversations, honest reflections, and a whole lot of get over it attitude. So let's get started. All right, everyone. Welcome to We Are Old, Get Over It. I'm Ken Gluckman, your host. Look, we've reached an age when we've seen every trick in the book, or so we think. The book has been rewritten. I guess I should have put my regular teeth in. By AI. AI, artificial intelligence, if you don't know. If you don't know, you've been sleeping. Whether you're listening in New York, Connecticut, California, you're being hunted by $1 trillion industry. But there are ways to fight back. And I'm here with one of the leaders of fighting back, Nora Duncan, who is, I'm going to let her tell you what her title is, but she's with the AARP in Connecticut. Are you the number one person there, the number 4 person there?
I'm the number 1 person, but
That's okay.
It's just middle management.
There you
the
go.
Big scheme
There
of
you
things.
go. Okay. So I usually start my podcast off after I'll do the introduction to you second. I usually start off with a quote. Instead of starting out with a quote, I'm going to tell a quick story. 2 days ago, I was driving my car. My wife was in the car. I get a phone call, comes on my speaker. Don't know the number. It says private number. That's a definite something wrong right there. Guy gets on the phone. Now remember, I'm driving down the highway. He says, Mr. Gluckman. He says, why didn't you show up to the hearing? And I said, what hearing? He said, you were called in at your address on Jacana, which was the street I lived on. And he said, you didn't answer the summons for jury duty. We had a hearing for you. You didn't show up at the hearing. And I have to inform you that we're going to have to charge you a fine. And I said, excuse me? I said, first of all, I'm 80 years old, which I'm not 80 years old, but I said I was 80 years old. I'm 80 years old. I live in the state of Florida, and I should not be getting anything about being on a jury. You guys don't want me. Secondly, I don't live at the address that you gave me. I don't believe you. Would you please hang up and let me be? And I hung up the phone. That's what's happening to people every single day. And that's why I worked hard to get a hold of Nora, because she is one of the experts in the field and is carrying the flag for the AARP along with others to try to inform all of us seniors, and we consider seniors 55 and up or 50 and up, depends, to protect themselves, or how they can protect themselves, or how they can use the AARP or the government to help protect them. So Nora, I want to welcome you to the podcast. And the first thing I want to do is ask you to give a little background on how you ended up where you are and why this is so important to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm the state director of AARP in Connecticut, and I've been doing it for 13 years. I landed here because I come from a background of nonprofit, trade association management, government relations, public affairs kind of work. So we take at AARP, we have sort of 3 pillars of our work just to make it easy. There's probably 93 pillars, but I'll stick with the 3. It's advocacy, outreach, and education. And those are usually around the big buckets of health, wealth, and self. So I had lots of experience working with state and federal government, lots of experience managing lots of people with divergent opinions, worked for a governor. So, I had been the executive director of a smaller trade association of trade associations. So it just sort of landed here. And the fraud aspect of this comes into play it's probably more than a decade ago, but close to, a little bit more. AARP was finding that the issue of fraud in financial resilience was becoming more and more and more of a concern. And they began something called the AARP Fraud Watch Network. that network needed some early adopters to raise their hand and get leaders in our state. So I employed a couple of well, employed for free because they're volunteers, but some really talented volunteers to lead that work in Connecticut, and has become a huge piece of our work. Now, to call me an expert is probably a bit of a stretch, but what I am is really good at putting together the pieces around consumer fraud, looking at opportunities for where we might have legislation in Connecticut that could help when there's a fraud victim who sort of lands in our lap. I have a tendency to be able to employ a network of people to get them the help they need and hopefully get some resolution. Not always, but sometimes. So that's sort of the story behind me and the AARP Connecticut fraud landscape. But AARP in general is hugely involved in fraud prevention, everything from working with major retailers in formal organizations that have come together to, stop some of the most common scams and fraud in their tracks, to working on the Elder Justice Coalition of Connecticut as the co-chair. I guess I am now. So it's a big picture, but yeah. So I think the reason you're having this conversation with me today is because nobody is escaping this, or not at least encountering it on a daily, weekly, hourly basis.
Okay. Now, uh, you said a lot, but you didn't say that you also go to the legislature in
Yep.
Connecticut.
Yep.
And just give me a minute or so of why you go and what you did there.
So the most recent example is we work in the Connecticut legislature, as does every AARP state in their own legislatures, on a variety of topics. This being one of them. Last year, 2025, an AARP fraud helpline caller landed in my lap. Now we have a fraud helpline that anyone can call toll free, and we'll talk about that later. She was from Connecticut. She landed in my lap, $1 million romance scam victim, and she needed help. Now, I was hearing her story, and I'm like, I asked if she was working with a detective that I know. And she said, I am. And I said, I think he's trying to get a piece of legislation going. And now you've ended up in my lap in a different way. Let's all work together. She became a volunteer and a spokesperson for fraud victims. She's African American. She's 60. She said, I've never seen someone who looks like me step up and say, I lost all this money. I want to be a voice so that other people avoid these kinds of losses. She came to the legislature. Bottom line, we were able to pass a piece of legislation because A, it was the smart thing to do, and B, she told her story. But it boils down to the state had limited ability to seize and forfeit crypto wallets. Um,
Hmm.
and now the state has that ability. So if there's fraudulent activity in a crypto wallet, the state now has its sort of own crypto wallet and the legal authority to go and deal with that currency as the same way they would deal with, a bank account full of US dollars.
Okay, great. Now, my first question is anyone unscammable today?
I would say no. There's people who are better at it because of a variety of reasons. They're super suspicious, or they have less of a digital footprint. But if you have a digital footprint, especially, you'll be a target. We all know there's phone calls that come into landlines. Those are old fashioned. We know that people show up at front doors pretending that they're utility representatives and they need to, get into your house, and your water's going to get shut off if you don't, pay right now. So there's those which are not digital still happening. We can talk about, you know, check fraud and things like that too. But if you have a digital footprint, you're a person with a bank account and a pulse. You're a human being. They can figure out who you are. You are going to be targeted. So, I mean, fraud against consumers is at an all-time high in the US and around the world. It's all transnational criminal organizations for the most part, stealing billions in scams every year. These are not new scams. It's the sophistication of the technology that is amped up the speed and the artificial intelligence that is helping these scammers slip past our defenses, basically.
Right. You mentioned AI, and there's my daughter's voice is all over her Instagram account.
Yeah.
You're telling me that someone can steal that, correct? And how does that
Correct.
work, and how long does it take for them to hear a voice like yours or mine?
I mean, a couple seconds of audio. Hello, how are you? Um, I think it's not hard to find examples of deep fakes that have been exposed on the internet when talking about celebrities or politicians. There's a piece of legislation right now, bipartisan, that AARP has endorsed. I happen to know a little bit about it because it's a U.S. Senator from Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, who's the or one of the originating co-sponsors. But it says legitimate companies and everyone have to identify that they're using AI in a chat bot, et cetera, to talk to you moving forward. Now that law has to pass, and what does it do to those who are criminals? There's only so much you can do to make a criminal follow the law, but you know, it would identify real use of AI, legitimate use of AI versus this fake AI that is having your granddaughter's voice cloned, your you know, teacher from 5th grade's voice cloned, calling you saying, "I'm in the hospital. I need help." Then there's, it's grandma. I got arrested. Don't tell mom. Help me. It's kind of like grandparent scam 2.0, but that impersonation, trying to convince you to send them money by
Right.
using personal voices, sharing personal information. It's all over the place, Ken, and it is literally like the fastest growing fraud
Hmm.
that there is.
What's a ghost hack?
This is the remote access into your computer. So it's also sometimes referred to as the tech support scam, like the pop-up notification comes accompanied by a siren or a freezing screen or, something that makes you panic with a toll-free number or them connecting to you via computer audio or video. And, you're told I give me access to your device remotely. We can resolve this image. And then you get basically malware that'll steal your login, your passwords, etc. Back in the day, this has to be 15 or more years ago. And this is something to be concerned about too, is I was having a computer problem, and I went to Google and I tried to figure out where I could get some remote support. And of course, I got remote support that was a scam. So,
Mhm.
because, algorithms and making sure your scam is at the top of the Google search list is still a problem. So it can happen when they come in and ghost hack you, or when you go out and accidentally pull down the wrong info, bad info. But it lets someone into your computer and then they steal everything.
Mhm. Okay, we're gonna get into that a little bit, but let me ask you a couple of quick questions. Let's do a quick pulse check for the listeners. True or false? The FBI calls you to help with an undercover sting. True or false?
No, false. The FBI is not calling you. I don't FBI doesn't need your help. And if the FBI does need your help, I have a feeling you're gonna know that it's real. They're not gonna call. They don't need help moving money to a safe locker. They don't need any of that. No. Nope, nope,
Okay.
nope.
All right. So I hope that the audience is listening to this because this happens tens of thousands of times in the United States every single day. So the odds are that something like this is going to happen to you. Remember what Nora has said. Okay, another one. I get a text from Amazon about a late package with a click, with a link. Do I click it?
No, don't ever click it. So that's a trap door. It happens for FedEx, USPS, Amazon, anybody you can think of that would normally be coming to your home, right? So go to the app or the website directly. That is where the truth is. The truth is not in the text. It might be in a push notification from the app. It's not in a text.
Okay, another one. How often do I need to change my passwords?
There's a kind of two answers to here, right, to
Okay,
this. So one is stop using passwords. We're moving more to pass keys. There are apps that can do this for you on your phone and on your computer. You can use biometrics like your face or your thumbprint. They're much more difficult to phish, but also sometimes, there's an update and you still need to have a password. But, make your passwords all different. Change them at least every 3 months, modify them when you change them. Don't keep using the same one over and over again. They'll get it. They'll get it.
I'm I'm a guilty party.
I mean, it's
I'm
it's
not even
hard.
gonna say
It's hard. It's
I'm a
hard.
bum, okay? I use LastPass, which keeps all of my because how am I gonna remember the 400 things that I have passwords for? Probably it's 600 at this point.
Yeah.
There's no way you can remember all of them. And of course, I'm just a regular human being. If I have a password that works for me and I say, "Well, why don't I just use this one? I'll use it for the next 25 things," and I've got it, and all they have to do is get one, right? And off they go to the races.
Yeah, you get that one little thing of malware, and now they have access to 600 accounts.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the other thing to do is to use something that you can remember, but that has a change that involves the app or website you're talking about or the company you're talking about, right? So, XYZ PDQ and it's Amazon. So, you figure out, you use a 3-letter
Right, I understand.
code and just make sure there's some changes. But really, honestly, everything should be unique, and password managers do help with that.
Okay, so I can send you all my passwords and you can fix them up for me, right?
Well, and
No,
as one of my
okay.
staff said, and then I'll use the last 4 digits of my phone number from when I was growing up, and I'll have your PIN to everything.
Exactly,
Or
but
as
that
another staff member said, she's more senior. She said, or just use my the year I was born. That would help too. Like these are things that are so easy,
is
especially the year you were born, for
right.
the unsophisticated hacker to figure out.
Okay, now let's talk about, safe words for a second. This is a very important subject. Again, it relates to the kind of thing that happened to me at another story with my daughter, which I won't go into. But explain what a safe word is, and what the benefit of it is, and why it's so important for a family to have a safe word or words.
Well, a safe word. I mean, I think you hear people talking to children about this, right? But let's talk about adults as well. When you get the fraudulent scam, let's say it's the grandparent scam, you get a panic call from a loved one, the voice sounds exactly like them. Ask them for the word. If they can't give the word, you know it's a scam, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then share that only with family members, your inner circle. It could be anything. It could be, Rubber Ducky or Fred Flintstone, the name of the family's first dog, but a word that you can use to have more confidence that you're really talking to the person you think you're talking to.
Right. So, what you should be doing today after this podcast is be contacting, don't put it in an email, call them on the phone and say, listen, we need to have a family safe word and come up with one. And I know my family, we do have one. So I do get a star from you for that one. My
All right.
passwords, 0. Just I
You
failed
know
that
what?
whole
The
course.
safe word may not be enough points to negate the bad behavior on your
Oh,
passwords.
well, what are you gonna do? It's, I'm old, that's gonna be my excuse.
Get over it. That's what you said.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Thank you for
Huh.
that, little ad. Anyway, okay, so we talked about safe words. Let's talk about Facebook profiles. A little bit about Facebook, and especially how it relates to your children and your grandchildren if you're using Facebook all the time, because we're back when computers started.
Okay, so you're giving away answers to security questions on your Facebook page and you don't even realize it probably, right? If you got a picture of your granddaughter, picture of your dog, you're naming them, it's their birthday, you're saying happy 8th birthday, you're giving away the year the kid was born. So you just set profiles to private. And I am shocked. Like I'll go to look somebody up and I'm like, well, I'm not friends with you. Why can I see everything you've ever posted? Use social media with caution. We all tend to overshare sometimes the details of our life on social media, which, makes it easy for criminals to target us. When you mix and match information, you're giving away the keys to the store. So, and then another thing too is if you're getting a message from someone you don't know, do not accept their friend, block them. I mean, I even see now, I'm doing something on Facebook Marketplace, for instance.
Mhm.
Facebook will say, "Do you know this person? Are you sure this is the right person to talk to? Stop." I know that was a Facebook Marketplace message, but if I still need to think, right? So limit your posts, limit your information, set your security to private. Don't talk to people you don't know.
Okay. Let's talk about WhatsApp for a second. Okay. I have a daughter who works for the government. She goes overseas. I can call her overseas using my phone, call her on
Mhm.
my phone. Quote unquote, it's secure because of the way they do their algorithms
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
Is it true?
I think it's about encryption, and I believe it is true. And I've used WhatsApp, when I'm overseas, because everybody uses it. Like in Europe, for instance, I was just well, my husband had his best friend on speaker who's an attorney, and he's got clients. And he's like, my WhatsApp is blowing up. This just happened last night.
Mhm.
Because the entire firm that I'm working with is overseas, and this is how they all communicate. Everybody in Europe just WhatsApps each other, like, more than they text. I think it's more secure than other things, but it's also used for nefarious purposes, so, like anything else, I mean, you don't
So,
wanna be sending you don't wanna be sending your Social Security number over it.
yeah, I understand that, but shouldn't more people be switching from sending their text messages to a WhatsApp?
I can't really necessarily say that I know enough to advise on that, but, I mean, if you're concerned about messaging, encryption, keeping things private, you're going to want to look and do your research on what the most secure messaging sites are. I mean, that's my answer to that. Yeah, what's
Okay.
more likely to be hacked? I mean, an unencrypted site, right?
Okay.
Um,
Now that
so
we've s
maybe Ken.
Okay. Well,
That's probably the
it's more
best I could.
positive than negative at
Yeah,
least.
best I
We've
could
been
say is
very
do your
negative
research.
so far.
Yeah, do your research.
Okay. So, now that we've scared everyone and continued to scare them, okay, let's give them a little review. I have the scammer's script red flag phrases, okay? Here we go. The false authority hook. What does that mean?
That's like an imposter scam. It's somebody scary, like you said. I'm going to come and you're going to pay a fine because you didn't show up for jury duty, or I'm the cops, or it's the FBI.
Okay.
Imposters,
How do you deal with that?
hang up.
Just hang up. That's it.
If they say I'm calling from the you know a local police department in your town, say thank you. I am going to call the main number back, and then please give me your name. I'll connect with you that way.
Hmm.
Hang
Perfect.
up,
Okay.
call.
That's
If
what
it's real, they'll be there.
okay. That's one piece of good
Yep.
advice. The emotional hijack, a
Oh,
family emergency. We kind of discussed that.
yeah. Scammers and thieves use fear. So you need to take a deep breath and really think about it. Your daughter's saying she's somewhere. Do you think she's really there, or is she at work right now? Can you text and get a verification? Take the deep breath. Do not react out of emotion.
So, what you're saying, for example, if I got a phone call and I thought it was real and I asked them, give me a phone number to call, and they give me a phone number,
That can be
I've,
fake. Yeah.
I've been through that
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
and we eventually figured out that it was fake. But the point is, don't give anybody money. Say the safe word.
Say
Say,
the
put
safe
my
word.
daughter on the phone or my son on the phone, or tell me the safe
Yeah.
word. I actually hung up on someone. They called me the second time. They called my wife, and somebody else called me with the same basic scam. And they said my kid was in jail, and I said, "Keep him," and I hung up the phone.
Whatever
So,
he did, he probably deserved it.
well, first of all, I don't have a son, so it
Well,
doesn't.
that's your first choice. I don't have a son. But I mean, honestly, it's like if someone walks up to you and puts a gun to your head on the street, that's one thing,
Yes,
right? This
of
is not
course.
that. This
No.
is you have time to stop and think, right? If someone is being held in jail, well, they're going to be there 5 minutes from now.
Hmm.
That's not going to
Good
change
point.
their fate, right? I mean,
Right.
that's why. When people take a deep breath and stop and think about things, they'll recognize red flags.
Right.
It's when we react with emotion and which is what they want and they're trained to do. And they've done this to 300,000 people this week, and they've got a couple people to do it, and that's how they're making a living, right?
Right.
So,
Well, that's kind of like the emotional hijack, right? It's a family
yeah,
emergency. It's basically the same kind of thing.
it's panic. It's a
Yes.
they will always try to, urgency, panic, fear of missing out. Those are like the 3
Okay.
emotions. Like they're just going for emotion.
Okay. The unusual payment demand. The IRS does not accept credit cards for this, correct? You must pay electronic voucher, gift cards, or a Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, no, no,
Don't
because
ever.
if you went down to the police station to pay the
Mhm.
bail, they would not take an Amazon gift card,
Okay.
right? I
Right.
mean, this is the thing, like, do not go down to the CVS and pull the gift cards. And it sounds like, why would I have to say this? We still do have to say
Yes.
this because people are reacting out of fear and concern. And listen, it's not that old people are getting scammed. Everybody's getting scammed.
Right,
But,
exactly.
you know, there's people who grow up with technology are sometimes more savvy to recognizing the pitfalls of technology. But technology moves at the speed of light now. So hardly any of us can keep up. It's not my job to be a scamming criminal, right? That's what someone's job is to do full time to take your money.
Mhm.
Organized crime. So you didn't do anything wrong, but you still have to be on your toes and recognizing that acting out of emotion is the way that they're going to get you.
Okay, let me go on to one last subject like that. I'm doing some research right now and doing an interview about loneliness,
Hmm.
which is something that affects older people a lot, and chatbots and those kind of things, which we could talk about later. Uh, I'm just talking about the tech support and romance lure, mostly the romance lure. Like if I was unmarried and I was lonely, I might go on some website and someone would tell me that, you know, they would appear to be a very nice person. Give me a little bit of the story about that and how you have to be. I mean, I was very concerned about someone that I know who was talking to someone in South Africa, and it got to the point where this person wanted money to be sent so they could fly over. There's always an issue.
Oh
And I
yeah,
said, "No,
you
I'm going to
be
call
there.
you. Give me your phone number of your kids. I want them to talk to you." Okay. So that's my short version of it. Give me the best version.
Well, I'll give you so loneliness is an issue. It's actually recent studies show impacting men more than women and
Absolutely
actually
right.
middle-aged men, like 35 to 55 are so the piece of legislation I spoke about earlier, going over to the Capitol with somebody who had lost nearly $1 million. I'll give you that story because this is sophisticated.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good
Um,
story.
it's a good story. So Jackie has she works for Yale New Haven Health. She has like 60 people who work for her. She runs a mammography, you know,
Department.
department.
Hmm.
Um, been there
Okay.
for a long time, saved up a lot of money, owns her own house, etc. She's happy, but
Hmm.
she wants to start dating. So she goes on an African American and Black focused dating app
Okay.
where she meets a guy, doing the regular dating app stuff, and he has to take it offline to off the dating site to somewhere else. And this went on for a long time, long time. He was doing things like she said they would pray together at night.
Mm.
He would send food to her house. They still hadn't met, but she was planning a big birthday party. He's like, do this, do that. And then eventually, and it took a really long time because like in a good one of these good scams, they'll wait until they have you before they make the move on the money. But it was an investment scam that based off of a romance scam. Crypto is involved. She's lost, like I said, nearly $1 million. Her house is in foreclosure. She's paying $700 plus a month on interest and penalties on early withdrawal of retirement money. I mean, it's devastating.
Mm.
But these things can start in real places like this dating site, and these dating sites need to be held more accountable. And some federal law enforcement we're working with are actually starting to work with Match.com and places like that to help educate folks about like what this should look like versus what it looks like. But it's a huge problem, and it's not just romance. There's tons of celebrity impersonations Like, I don't know how poor Keanu Reeves ends up being this guy that seems to be the one who's getting
The
used the
most
most, but I've
popular
heard so
name?
many about him,
Hmm.
where people believe they're really speaking to a celebrity. Sometimes they're more B-list, but, um, the feds will call them relationship scams because they're not always romance, right? They
Mhm.
might be something else,
Got it.
but they're everywhere, and when I said, "If someone contacts you on Facebook and you don't know them, don't talk to them." I've gotten more things from, you know, military good-looking guys dressed in military uniforms saying, "Hey, I saw your profile, blah, blah, blah." No, you didn't. Block. Like, that's not a real person. It's not a real person. And if it is, it's creepy anyway. But it's so easy because they're so good at what they do about making you feel important, about, all the things that would make someone who's lonely or vulnerable. And a lot of times they do find people, this is even more, disgusting, but it kind of reminds me of, back in the day, and it probably still happens. Oh, it does happen, but in different ways. Like, somebody died in New York City in their rent controlled apartment, and people are reading the obituaries and going out. I mean, it's kind of like new school of that. We see the obituaries, and now I'm going to find you a few months later because I know you're in a vulnerable position. You lost a spouse. And so I'm using that as an angle. It's like,
Mhm.
that's
Play
like,
on your emotions.
that's just, that's disgusting, but that happens.
Hmm.
But yeah, why go after someone you're not sure is in an emotional state when there's someone who probably is?
Right.
It's obvious to you because of
Okay.
public record.
All right. So, now that we've scared the out of everyone, you and I are gonna have to do another podcast following this one for the next week
All right.
that tells them how to defend themselves, the fortress. So I'm gonna end this podcast, if it's okay with you, with a quote, and this is from someone named Nora Duncan. It's out there in the real world. Just shows you that I can track you down. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Is that true that that's a quote from you?
Yes, but I can't say it originated with me, but that is like a big fraud watch network, AARP fraud watch network saying, if you
Okay.
can spot a scam, you can stop a scam.
Okay. But if people don't listen to our next podcast, I have a list of things that we should probably tell them. First thing is, let's talk a little bit about the National Recovery Roadmap. First of all, if you've been scammed, you're going to be embarrassed about it. And you're not going to either, you don't want to talk to anybody about it, even if it's $20. But if it's as much money as that lady had, or if it's $500 or $1,000, you feel embarrassed that you were taken advantage of. But you should tell authorities
Yeah.
or tell the AARP. So there's a national recovery roadmap that you can use. And I'm going to just read a little bit about each one of them. And then you can just address that. And then we're going to kind of end the podcast. Is that
Okay.
okay? Hopefully, we're not making you want to jump off a building or anything, or close or stop talking to anybody, or stop going on the internet. Next podcast, we're going to give you a fortress. Okay. So here we go. AARP Fraud Watch Network. Tell me about it.
So that's a place where you can go to read up on scams, see what the latest is. Lots of great content. You can put into an interactive map scams you're seeing in your neck of the woods. You can sign up for I think it's monthly, might be biweekly, newsletter that really, if you read it, keeps you on track of the latest and the greatest with a lot of our expert partners involved in that.
Okay. Next thing, federal reporting. Who do you report to?
There's so many places, and sometimes there's almost like a no wrong door, but you can report to the AARP fraud helpline. We report into the FTC's Consumer Sentinel, which is kind of the Bible of fraud in America.
I think I think that one is
877
called identitytheft.gov. Is that correct?
identitytheft.gov. You can do, there's a lot of, it's kind of
There's
hard to
another
say.
one that's the FBI, I understand. It's
Yeah,
IC3.gov. I don't know
there's
what
a
that
form.
stands for.
Hmm.
Is that a form to fill out?
There's a form to fill out. Yeah.
Okay, but that way you can get something to the FBI.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is break the silence, correct?
Yep. Yeah, like Jackie did about her romance scam, right? And $1 million and saying, "I wanna be the face of this."
Did she ever get any of that back?
It not really, because once which is sort of that whole thing with the wallets, right?
Yeah.
Once it's gone in crypto,
Hmm.
crypto's the worst in terms of losing money quickly, but she got her dignity,
Good for her. I'd like to meet her one day. I'd like to speak to her one day.
and we've got her working with the attorney general too, hoping
Yeah.
they can do something with the banks and everybody else. And sometimes
Well,
the banks aren't good players in these things.
that's right.
They need to
That's
be held
right.
accountable.
Okay. Well, on that unhappy note, we're going to end the podcast today. I gave you the quote. And again, if you need any advice, go to these sources that we've given you on our website, weareoldpodcast.com. I'm going to list all this information for you. The transcript is there. There'll be a link there so that you can see the podcast again. So the information will be available to you with phone numbers and email addresses or websites to help you. The bottom line is if something doesn't sound right or appear right, it most likely is not right. You need to hang up the phone, close your computer, close your, close whatever it is, close the door and take a deep breath. And with that, I want to thank you, Nora, for taking the time out of your valuable day and being involved in the podcast today. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
everyone, remember, I want to make you laugh and I want you to make somebody laugh today. Okay. Bye-bye now. And that concludes this episode of We Are Olds, Get Over It. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found our conversation both insightful and entertaining. Remember, age is a journey, not a destination. So embrace the wrinkles, the forgetfulness, and the occasional tech frustrations with a good dose of get over it attitude. Until next time, keep laughing, keep learning, and keep getting over it. Ken out.
This podcast features a variety of perspectives. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are solely their own and do not constitute an endorsement by this program. Unless otherwise stated, this podcast does not endorse the products and services of our guests, but shares them for informational purposes only.